Hey youngins, it's Meemaw. And so today I'm going to show you how to make biscuits and gravy, like the ultimate comfort food. And I'm making it for supper because what's better for supper than breakfast? So before I can make biscuits and gravy though, I need to make some bacon. So I'm going to show you how to make bacon without burning it. And then we'll do some biscuits and gravy Meemaw style. Okay, so I've washed my hands. I have opened my package of bacon, and I like a thick cut bacon. And I hear people often say, I can't seem to cook bacon without burning it. So the problem with that is they've got their skillet temperature too high. Okay, so you may be wondering why I have to cook bacon to make biscuits. Because I need the grease from the bacon to put in the pan that I'm gonna cook the biscuits in the oven. And I also need the bacon grease to make the roux, which is the base for the gravy. So I've got my eye at a medium heat. Not cooking the bacon too fast, otherwise it's going to be raw on one side and burn on the other side. So you just keep an eye on it as it cooks. Okay, so the bacon has been in the pan between 2 and 3 minutes, and you can see that the fat on the bacon has started to change colors and it's becoming more translucent. And it is about time to flip these strips of bacon. So I'm just going to pull it up at one end and then drag it to the other side. If you feel like you're not getting a good distribution of heat, you might need to change positions, moving the bacon that's on the outer side of the pan, trade places with a piece that's on the inside. Let me get it all flipped over. Isn't that just looking great, nice and golden in color? And I like a crispy bacon. So it's going to cook like this for another couple of minutes on the other side. Okay, my bacon's been cooking on the other side for just a couple of minutes. The ends, you can see, are very fatty, and those fatty ends I'm going to flip it again so that those fatty ends can get a bit more heat to them. And I'm going to pull that fatty end to the middle where the majority of the heat is, just for another minute or so. Okay, it's time to take my bacon out. I have a plate that I have put a paper towel on, and the paper towel will absorb the grease that comes off of the bacon. I'm going to let it drip though for a minute, because what I'm really after is this bacon grease to make my gravy and my biscuits with. Okay, so remember I cooked this at just a medium heat because I didn't want it to burn. Look how beautiful it turned out. Nice and golden. Don't want to get in a hurry making bacon. Look how beautiful that bacon is. Okay. I don't quite have enough grease yet for what I need. So I'm going to make 4 more strips of bacon, which we're going to eat with our supper. I'm going to move it off of the eye as I put the new strips of bacon on. Okay, now I'm going to move it back over onto the heat. Use my fork to manipulate the bacon, get it down into that pan. Because this bacon is cooking in grease from the previous bacon, it will not require as much time on the eye as the first batch did, the first few strips. Okay, so because the heat isn't as even in my pan, and these middle pieces are cooking a little bit faster. I'm going to swap places. I'm going to move this in and this around. That way it gives an opportunity for each piece to get heat. I'm going to do the same here. Just push that to the side, pull this one over, and then pull this around. So. The great thing about cooking at a lower heat is that you don't have all the splash from the grease and burning yourself. If you cook it too high, there's constant spitting and splashing of that grease as it cooks. And it makes a mess, and you can burn yourself very easily with that grease. Okay, so the second batch is ready, and I'm going to, again, let it drain a little bit before I put another paper towel on my plate to catch the bacon drippings, the grease as it comes off of the bacon. And look, I have a good supply of grease now down in that pan. If you have a George Foreman grill available to you, it's a great way to make bacon and avoid all of the splatter and everything. Okay, I'm going to take the bacon grease off the stove for just a minute. I'm going to set it to the side, let it cool down just a little bit because I'm getting ready to use it for getting the pan ready. I'm going to put my biscuits in. Okay, so I've got my bacon grease from where I've made my bacon, and I've got a spoon. Be very careful, it's very hot. I'm going to put 3 spoonfuls of bacon grease into the pan where I'm going to bake my biscuits. And for me, what I'm using is my stone to make my biscuits in. And I'm going to just kind of, I don't know what you call that. I'm just going to make sure that the bacon grease is all around my pan on all the sides. I'm going to put this bacon grease back over near the stove. We're going to make gravy with that after the biscuits come out of the oven. Okay, so I've gathered the things that I'm going to need to make my biscuits, but I'm going to be working on biscuit dough right on top of my counter. A lot of people like to put barriers down, like maybe foil or cling wrap, but I just like to work right on my counter, so I clean it. And I've got my vinegar and water solution. If you haven't seen the recent video I did about how to clean a toilet, where I use this cleaner, I'll link it down below in the description so you can go back and look at that. But this is 2 parts vinegar, 1 part water. And so I've cleaned my surface. I've gathered my ingredients that I need, which is self-rising flour, milk. It could be 2%, it could be whole milk, it could be buttermilk. I use what I have, which is always 2% milk. Makes a great biscuit. They actually seem to be a bit lighter to me than a buttermilk biscuit. And then Crisco shortening. You could use any off-brand shortening. It would be just as good, but I use Crisco. And then a biscuit cutter. This is my grandmother's biscuit cutter, and I'm very attached to it. And all it is a tomato paste can with a little hole punched in the top, so that the suction, the biscuit will let go and it won't stay inside of the little can. All right, and then I have my mixing bowl. Okay, so this sounds strange, but I don't really have a recipe that gives you very specific measurements. It depends on how many biscuits you want to make. Tonight I'm making biscuits for 3, so I'm going to start off with a cup of flour. And I'm using a half a cup measuring cup. So I'm going to have 2 of these for a full cup. And then here's my shortening. And I'm just going to take a heaping spoonful, 2 of them, and drop into my cup of flour. I've washed my hands. I'm going to get in there with my hands, and I'm literally just going to start kneading the shortening into the flour. And as you knead the shortening into the flour, it will clean the shortening off of your hand. I know a lot of you are thinking, oh, that's just terribly messy, it's sticky, you're gonna have grease all over your hand. And yes, you do, but the flour is starting to absorb that shortening. And so you can see that how it's working, and it's kind of, see how it's absorbing the shortening? I'm gonna continue to just work that shortening into the flour. I'm gonna pull it off of my fingers a bit as I work it. And you know you have enough shortening in your flour if you can pick it up and ball it and it stays in a clump, right? But then you can work it again to get it into it, just like a powder, like a thick kind of powder. All right, I've worked my shortening in to my biscuit dough. I'm gonna loosen it up so that it's not all stuck, it's not stuck together in any kind of balls or anything. Okay, there we go. Now I'm gonna wash my hands, and then we're gonna move to the next step. Okay, so now I have mixed my shortening into my flour. Next ingredient is milk. Again, I don't have a precise measurement. I'm gonna pour probably 1/4 cup of milk into my flour, and I'm gonna begin to stir it. And I'm just gonna look and see how, what I think. Is it a good amount of milk? Yeah, it was about 1/4 of a cup. And so this is my mixture. That is perfect. It's very moist. You may think to yourself, that is way too, but it's not. It's just perfect. It's just moist enough. So I'm going to get it off of my spoon, set my spoon aside, set my milk aside, and now we're gonna start to roll these biscuits out. I'm gonna put a handful of flour. I just reached in my bag and grabbed a handful of flour, and I'm gonna spread it out on my cabinet just a little bit. And then I'm gonna take my spoon, and I'm gonna pull the dough out of the bowl directly onto the flour. Okay, maybe you can edit that out. Okay, I'm gonna put my bowl over there. I'm all done with my bowl and my spoon. I'm gonna get another little bit of flour in my hand, and I'm gonna just sprinkle the top some. My grandmother always said you don't want to handle biscuit dough too much, because then your biscuits are chewy. So I've made me a nice, see what I'm doing? I'm just barely patting it down. I'm gonna pat it down until it's about 3/4 of an inch. Just over 1/2 inch deep. Okay, I've got my biscuit cutter. You could buy a biscuit cutter in most any accessory store, kitchen accessory store. But again, this is just a tomato paste can, and a little hole has been cut in the top to prevent suction. All right, before I cut my biscuits, I gotta get my pan ready. You all saw me put the grease in my pan, right? But now I'm gonna heat that grease up. How am I gonna do that? I'm gonna pop it in the oven for about 3 minutes until it gets good and hot, because as I cut these biscuits, I'm gonna pop them right into this pan. Okay, so I've turned my oven on 400 degrees. It's heating up. I'm gonna pop my pan or my stone into the oven and let the grease that's inside heat up. That should just take a couple of minutes, and then we'll cut our biscuits and put in there to be able to bake them. Okay, I've pulled my stone out. It's got my hot grease in there. I've got my cutter. I'm gonna push straight down and twist. And then I'm gonna tap, tap, tap. And it should come out just like that. I'm gonna get some of the excess flour off. I'm gonna bring it to my pan, and then I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna drop it, but then flip it. So there's grease on top and grease on the bottom. Okay, drop it, flip it. Cut it, tap, tap, tap. drop it, flip it. Cut it, tap it, drop it, flip it. Okay, so now I have all these little end pieces. I'm just going to gather them together and I'm going to roll it in my flour a little bit. Again, I'm not going to handle it too much. It's enough for another cut. Tap, tap, tap. Drop it, flip it. And then I've got this little bit of dough left. My grandmother used to make little baby biscuits out of the end of her dough because those are the only biscuits my little sister would eat, the little baby biscuits. So I'm gonna drop that little baby biscuit in there as well. This is ready to go in the oven. It's gonna go into a 400-degree oven and we're just gonna watch it. It should be about 12 to 15 minutes, but I'm just gonna keep an eye on them. Okay, 400-degree oven, between 12 and 15 minutes. I'm gonna set the timer at 12, but then, and check them and see if they need more time after that. So I'm gonna bring my pan of grease back over, my bacon grease back over to the eye. I've got it on just a medium heat, like not high, not low, just right there in the middle. And I'm heating that grease up. You can hear it right now as it's sizzling a little bit. So I'm making my gravy. I think I forgot to tell you that, but that's what we're doing now. We're making gravy. So I've got a spoon and I'm gonna spoon out some flour into my bacon grease. And again, I'm just gonna kind of eyeball this. 1 tablespoon, 1 huge heaping spoon like this is going to be enough, I believe. I'm going to take a wooden spatula and I'm going to mix it into that grease. What I'm doing is making a roux. So I'm going to, all of that flour, I'm going to get it all mixed up in there into that grease. And I'm going to let it cook. While that's cooking, I'm going to put some pepper. This is going to be to taste. And salt. And I like pepper. And you're going to want some salt in there. It's flavoring. So I'm going to let it cook until it starts to turn a deeper brown color. As I'm looking at this, it seems a little clear to me. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more flour, like just a little bit more. Again, I'm gonna mix it up in there. Let that get nice and hot and sizzly. Cook. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit to like a medium-high heat. Really get it sizzly and cooking in there. Brown up that flour and that bacon grease. I'm not seeing very much of my pepper. I'm going to put just a bit more pepper in there. So now I'm beginning to smell it. Smelling very bacony. After a couple of minutes, see how nice and dark brown that's getting? Okay. All right, now I'm going to take my milk. Again, this is not an exact science for me, and I'm going to pour it right into that skillet, probably about a half a cup of milk. And I'm going to mix it with the spatula again as that milk begins to heat up. Because as the milk begins to heat up with that grease, then that flour, that roux, Look, see, it's beginning to thicken up. And just as you see it start to thicken up, you're gonna take it off of the heat. And you're gonna pour it. You gotta have your bowl ready because it doesn't take it but just a second to get ready. All right, my gravy is ready to go. Okay, so I clean up as I cook. That way at the end, I'm not facing this huge sink full of dishes, so I clean as I go. So my biscuits are in the oven, and I need to clean my counter. I've just gotten my trash can, and I'm just gonna push this flour right into the trash can because I won't be able to reuse that at all. Okay, there's the trash. I'm going to clean my counter again with my vinegar solution. A few paper towels to do that. Pay attention to see if you've gotten flour, if you've happened, to get flour on any of the appliances around you. Make sure you get that up. I'm going to put my cleaning solution there. I'm going to put away my ingredients back where they go. And then I'm gonna work on the dishes that I have in the sink. When I clean my little can, I just clean it by hand. Again, it's very special to me, and I'm gonna clean it, and then I'm gonna dry it to prevent it from rusting. I let it drain right there for just a minute. I'm gonna rinse the other things and put them in the dishwasher, except for my mixing bowl, and I always wash those by hand and put them away. Okay, youngins, we've had biscuits, gravy, bacon. I hope you've enjoyed watching me teach you how to make those things. You're worth my time. You're worth your own time. I hope that you'll rate, review, subscribe. But most important, I want you to put in your comments how I can pray for you today. Until I see you next time, I send you a hug.